What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and some more Bolt Action Market Garden scenario reviews here as we work our way towards the end of the book. So today we're going to take a look at Scenario 17, which is, again, another fun mission that they have in the book here. So, again, part of the appeal of all these campaign books, aside from, if you have an interest in that in particular, is just the sheer expanding of the game and just other scenario options just to keep things from getting stale with your games. So, get a move on here. The business of getting troops onto the ground was, of course, only the start of the process and, in a sense, only a small part of the picture. Once the troops had landed, they mustered, they still had to make their way to the objective as quickly as possible without becoming involved in firefights with the enemy, which would then exhaust the men and the ammo, and crucially then have an impact on the speed of their approach to the objective. So, in this one, the scenario can be played at more than one level of command, from a very small game involving just a platoon, all the way up to just larger engagements. So that's really just true for anything. Obviously, if you want to try variations of all this stuff, none of this necessarily has to be set in stone, so feel free to be creative. But as they kind of outline here, the points value of the Allied force should outnumber that of the Germans by about 3 to 1. The Allied force must conform to the airborne force selectors, and the Germans can be drawn from any combination of the relevant unit types, with the proviso that they cannot field more than 2 combat vehicles, which must be armored cars or flak vehicles. The scenario is played along the length of the table and set in open terrain with plenty of small woods and hills. 2 straight roads cross the center of the table. The element of surprise is an important consideration here. So the Germans weren't expecting an airborne landing, so at least half their force can't be on the board until turn 2 at the earliest, and then is subject to the normal bolt action rules for that. The Allied must bring at least half of their force onto the table in turn 1 for the scenario, and no tests are required for the reinforcement second wave units. However, all Allied units must enter the Allies' player's edge, basically, of the table. So, deployment. The German player can deploy half of their force anywhere on the table, but no closer than 24 from the attacker's side of the board, and may put up to 2 units in ambush. The balance of the defender's force can enter the board at their own discretion from turn 2 onwards, at any point on his edge of the table, subject to the usual conditions. The road junction can be protected by a checkpoint and up to 2 infantry elements. Squads of machine guns can be deployed in the trenches along the junction as well. If this option is chosen, the units in question then must start the game in ambush and basically can't be moved until turn 2. So again, we get kind of an idea of what that looks like. So the Allied player must deploy half of their force in turn 1 and thereafter can commit their remaining units. Second wave elements are subject to the reserve rules as well. Allied units cannot enter the table on the German side of the crossroads, though, which makes sense. So, now the objective here, the Allied player must destroy the German defense without incurring the level of casualties that might compromise their ability to fulfill the mission of seizing the main objective, most inevitably a bridge a couple miles away. Naturally, the German player has to stop progress at all costs, so that's a big theme of this book is, the Allies need to get somewhere to secure something, essentially, and then the Germans are basically just trying to slow them down and delay as much as possible for the most part. First turn, the Allied player's units must enter the table with a run or advance order. If the Allied player has not achieved their objective by the end of turn 8, so this can be a long one, roll a d6, 1 or 2, the game, that means the advance has run out of steam, the game is over. Otherwise, we could go for turn 9, and then, if possible, that could then continue on as well. So basically, potentially a 10-turn game, which is pretty fun too, since it's just the usual 6. So then victory here. Bear in mind that the objective of this game is to get the attacking force to closer to an objective or prevent it from doing so. So to secure victory, the attacker must get at least half of his force within 6 of the defender's edge of the table without suffering more than 30% in casualties in terms of figures rather than points, though. So keyword there, figures versus points. Anything else is a victory for the defenders. So again, we kind of have that line there. We got the crossroads, the German deployment area. I wish they would have here at least illuminated the Allied deployment area, but we can kind of figure that out from the way it's set up. So, and again, can be played in any number of ways. We could make this even a smaller board, fewer troops, some different combinations of things. Again, could bring in things like weather, nighttime, just to spice things up a little bit. So a fun little scenario that, again, will be pretty tense, especially the longer it goes. It would seem to favor the Allies because, again, if the Allies have a 3-1 force advantage versus the Germans, that's going to make things pretty tough. So every German casualty is going to be felt pretty heavily. But again, key setup there for the Germans is to just, I'd say, focus down Allied units, stack up pins as much as possible, and then just delay, and hope that the game ends and you've inflicted more. And just be very judicious with your engagement. So I think in all possible areas, getting some sort of cover for your troops is going to be key there. But a fun one to test out, and certainly from big to small levels. Let us know if you've tried Scenario 17 here in Market Garden. Hope you enjoyed a quick look at that and some of the ideas. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys are picking up anything from Warlord, check out the link in the pinned comment. If you go through that, then pick up anything that helps support the channel. So love to see anybody who's been helping us on that. And we'll be back with more very soon. Thanks so much for watching.